Hello there. Today I'm taking a look at a wine from Margaux. I have here a bottle, or half bottle rather, of Boyd-Cantenac 2018. So Boyd-Cantenac's a third growth, a Troisième Grand Cru Classé, from the 1855 classification. The estate gets its name in 1754 when Jacques Boyd, a Scot but with a business trading from Belfast, buys the estate and gives it his name, and it's from Cantenac, one of the communes which make up the appellation of Margaux, so slightly more to the south, and thus Boyd-Cantenac. 101 years later, it's classified as third growth in the classification of the Médoc, and then the sort of the modern history of the estate starts in 1932 when the Guillemet family buy the estate. Today the estate is run by Lucien Guillemet. He has a bit of a reputation for being quite individualistic, taking his own course. He's not a member of the Union de Grand Cru, so his wines don't show up at a lot of the big tastings. So it's a wine that flies slightly under the radar. Also, it's not a huge chateau. I mean, it's for the Médoc at 17 hectares. It's quite small, so there's not a vast amount of the wine around, but normally a really nice example of a Margaux. They have some quite good vineyard resources. The vine age on average there is 38 years, so that means some good mature vines giving some good concentration there. 2018 was a pretty excellent vintage actually. It started off poorly. It was a wet spring. But then there was quite a lot of heat, not very much rain later in the season, and actually the thing that troubled the harvest most was water stress, the lack of water. So it was those terroirs, those soils that could best hold the water that prospered in 2018. This particular wine is predominantly Cabernet Sauvignon. It's 56% Cabernet Sauvignon. There's 18% of Merlot, 10% of Petit Verdot, quite a high amount of that, and 6% of Cabernet Franc going into the blend here. And I think that reflects the fact that they've got, as is typical for this part of Margaux, they've got some deep, free-draining gravel soils here, and that suits Cabernet Sauvignon, which doesn't like particularly wet conditions, so the free draining gravel suits it very well. I mean, winemaking is very standard here. The wines are hand picked, there'll be some sorting going on. Fermentation will vary according to the vintage as to how much extraction they want. It might go on up to 4 weeks or so, or it might only last a week, depending on how much they need to draw out of the wine. Similarly, the wine ages pretty standardly in French oak barriques for 12 to 18 months, depending on one thing they do is they'll split it up, and they say that the free run juice is what they put into once it's for the wine from the free run juice is what they put into new oak. So there's a marrying up there of probably the best quality wines and the better oak. But anyway, let's have a look at the wine and see what we think of it, shall we? First thing to say, there's a nice depth of this quite vibrant ruby red colour. There's a purple note at the rim. It's almost to a sort of a bluish purple there. Swirling it, actually the wine is forming tears on the glass fairly readily. It's only 13.5% alcohol, so it's not a big blockbuster of a wine from this quite ripe vintage. Let's have a look at the aroma, shall we? There is a ripeness. You can tell this is quite a powerful vintage, but at the same time you've got notes of sort of dark red to black plum, almost a sort of purple sort of note, dams and bullace, that sort of thing. But you've got some leafy notes, some leafy freshness, maybe touches of red currants. Some hints of a very typical marker from Margaux, that sort of violety perfume there. Not particularly much in the way of cedar. I think there are cedar notes there, but they're quite well integrated with a lifted sort of red currant to maybe to cassis sort of note on the fruit. So let's have a taste. That's got an awful lot of the elegance that you're looking for from Margaux. Although there is some richness there as well, but you know, there's a lovely fresh acidity. They're almost sort of slightly leafy touches. There are notes of cassis, that sort of quite pungent, quite acidic, quite well-defined black fruit, almost sort of black cherry, but with some real sort of fresh bite to it. There, on the palate, the oak is coming through, the sort of toasty oak, almost heading to a chocolatey sort of note, and that's providing some slightly drying structure, which actually probably means that this wine's still a little young to be accessed. I mean, 2018, it's not even 5 years old yet. So there is plenty of grip, plenty of structure, but it's not, you know, this is at most a mid-weight wine. It's well structured, but it's not heavyweight. The alcohol's in balance, as I say, 13.5%, and there's a freshness at the finish that's leaving that sort of that dark plum note. Plum because there's a sort of a lovely sort of crunchy freshness at the end. That you know, plums have good acidity in that sort of way. It's not getting over to an overripe prune note, so there's some nice freshness in that as well. They're fresh fruits. They're not over mature or anything like that. So it's lasting nicely. I think this is a still young, but a nice example of the elegance that Margaux can have, even and maintain even in quite a warm vintage. I'd suggest leaving the wine for 2 or 3 years really before seriously drinking it, and I think that would very happily last another 10 to 15 years without any problem at all. There's sufficient fine structure and enough lifted acidity and concentrated fruit that should have no trouble aging in bottle, in the right selling conditions, obviously. But yes, thank you very much for watching. That's been a rather enjoyable half bottle of Boyd-Cantenac 2018. So thank you for watching, and do join us again sometime soon, please. Bye now.